Welcome on back, everybody. We're talking about the original restanding Vanguard to pretty much make the Hall of Fame in terms of units. I mean, it's arguably the most iconic one. We're talking about Dragonic Overlord and Dragonic Overlord the End. This deck just got a promo card in the form of the Volume 3 of the Skyride manga, which if you guys have been reading it, let me know what you guys are thinking about it and the thoughts in the comments down below. I'm personally enjoying it pretty well, and I don't think they have the date announced for Volume 4, which kind of sucks, but you know. So this deck got an insanely big buff, which you can kind of guess because I have the original on top of the deck, meaning this is back in our ride deck. So let's just go on in and talk about this. So we're using a standard Overlord ride line in the form of Lizard Runner and Undo. He's been there since day one. You gotta have him. The embodiment of Armor Bar. When Bar gets ridden over by Nehalem, he searches out any grade 1 from your deck for a counterblast of 1, which happens to be our new promo card, but also you can grab perfect guards. You can grab our discard fodder for Overlord's attacks. It it it's an insanely good card. And then Dragon Knight Nehalem. When your Overlord rides on top of it, you get to call it out of the soul, and then once per turn you Soul Blast one. Give him and your Overlord Vanguard +5 until the end of turn. It's a nice little buff. It feels like beforehand you weren't really able to afford the soul before because before this promo came out we were running the Virgilla grade 1 instead of Bar because this just wasn't doing as much, but now we got enough soul to burn on this and burn on other cards, and of course Dragonic Overlord himself. So this card, if you have to be on him for a turn, is really unfortunate. But what he does is, if he hits, you can counterblast one, you discard a card and restand him, and he loses a drive check. So the on-hit part's very unfortunate, but the other ability is kind of, if it comes up, Estashion has a plant token that can't, or that kind of revolves their whole game plan around, and the easiest way to get rid of it is if Overlord attacks, your opponent also can't use guard from hand if it's on a rear guard. So you can if you find a way to swing at that, if you incorporate it into your deck, it's pretty cool. I didn't incorporate it here because I feel like it's a very niche matchup, and I don't really want to run a brick for no reason. But that is the basis of the basic ride deck. Very straightforward. We're moving on to kind of the grade threes, but it's going to be the grade threes in the orders because I feel like that's going to be the easiest way to explain that. So I got 4 copies of Dragonic Overlord the End. Uh, this has been one of my favorite cards since I was, oh my god, like a sophomore in high school. Like he's been there, no matter the form. He's been in my deck, but whether from the originals to V format, which was a time, to this. So he has two abilities. The first is a continuous on your turn. If you have the original in Soul, you get plus 5k and you don't lose drive checks, which is insane. And the other ability is the end of battle. He attacks once per turn. You counterblast one, drop 2 from your hand to restand him, and he would lose a check. However, if you have the original in Soul, you are not going to lose that drive check, which is really nice. So get that a little better on frame. There we go. The reason why the end has been put back in the main deck instead of the ride deck is because of the new order, which is Scarlet Flame. Oh, no. Come back, come back, come back. There we go. So Scarlet Flame, the new Skyride promo, which says that when you activate it, you draw a card, choose a card from your hand and call it. If you don't call a card, you discard a card. And then you get to retire one of your opponent's rear guards. If you do not, you get to give a unit +5, which is really cool. So typically, this is kind of like you want to play this as on like turn 2 Yeah, it's not crazy. The first effect isn't like what you're trying to do every turn. It's more important for the second effect, which is if it's in your drop, you Energy Blast 3 and you bind it from the drop, and you get to do one of two things. You either search your deck for an Overlord with a different card name and you ride it, so this will turn into this, uh, or you can discard a card. If you didn't ride from a grade 2 this turn, you can activate Persona Ride, which means you double activate Persona Ride uh, turn 4 onward, which is insane. You're getting plus 30 to the front row. And if you play another order card, which we'll go to in a second, that's plus, oh my god, it's just plus 30. It's good, man. Like, this is like the custom card of custom cards, you know? Uh, it also having this means you have a little more of an early game because you can play a little bit of an order package. It's super good. So that is the big buff that this deck got. The last cards are just one regardless piece. Caliburn's kind of, it's probably not your best choice, but the way I see it is a lot of people, when you are going, uh, they'll try to counterblast deny you on this. If they don't counterblast deny you on this, they'll try to counterblast deny you for your grade 3 turn. This gives you a chance to at least have one counterblast to do the restand. But otherwise, it's also a Pot of Greed, and Pot of Greed's a good card. And 2 copies of Drag Resonance. And Drag Resonance is if your Vanguard restands, you get to give your front row plus 10, which is insane. it, it's one of the, I think right before this, I was playing like 3 or 4 copies of this because of how good it was in this deck. But uh, now your goal is to make sure that you have this in your graveyard to get your plus 30k or plus 20k the front row, but plus 30 is pretty nice too. That's it for the order count. And now on to the grade 2s. I want to talk about 2 of the grade 2s kind of at the same time. So we have Burning Horn Dragon and we have Bellicosty Dragon. So they both have the same ability. Well, almost the same ability. Burning Horn is if your Vanguard with Overlord attacks, it gets plus 5, and that happens every time. So if you attack twice with your Overlord Vanguard, it gets plus 10. Bellicosty is specifically if your Vanguard attacks, and he'll get plus 5. So the idea, realistically, is you want to have something that hits pretty good on rearguard, even though this is obviously a Vanguard focused deck. You want to be able to have something that can push out some numbers, which is why I'm playing 8 of them. The other abilities they both have are nice, but Bellicosti's doesn't necessarily come up every game because it's tied to an Energy Blast 3. But Burning Horn is Counterblast 1, look at top 7 for an Overlord, add to your hand. If you don't add, you countercharge 1. So this is a way to fish out the Persona Rides from deck if you want them, which you obviously do. And then Bellicosti is a put a card from Energy Blast 3, put a card from hand to soul, draw 2 cards, which pretty much only comes up if you're going second because you want to save your energy for the order card because it's Energy Blast 3. But typically you resolve one of these a game, and if you don't use what's it called? If you don't use the ace unit, you can get a second of it if you want to, but drawing 2 cards is really nice. And then for the rest of the grade 2s, I've got the ace unit to retire anything pesky, but it's also just an early game, like call it down, kill something, draw a card, swing for 15, which is really nice. And 4 copies of Drag Ritter Latifa. Latifa is if you played an order this turn, you Soul Blast 1, look at top 5, call a card and shuffle, or if it's an order card that's a grade equal to or lower than your Vanguard, add it to your hand. So it helps you do a little bit of deck thinning, which is really nice. But the other part of it, which is like the the retire part of the order, where you get to kill one of your opponent's rear guards is nice, but it doesn't always guarantee that this hits super big because her ability is for every open in her column on your opponent's field, she gets +5 on swing. So normally she swings for 15 at best if you play the order, which isn't super great. So you kind of want her just for the grade 2 turn. Um, Otherwise, she's the easiest way I can say it. She's kind of like the wet noodle on your board. Like she's not going to really be hitting your opponent for a lot of damage. Moving on to the grade ones. If I could grab them all, my goodness. So I think the easiest thing to talk about will be 4 perfect guards. I mean, every deck plays them. Sanctitude. Sanctitude's really good. Um, no questions about that. 4 copies of Dragrid or Halbay. Halbay, still desperately looking for the other 3, but that's okay. Halbay is if you're a Vanguard with discard a card, this is treated as 2. So this turns your the ends Counterblast 1, discard 2 into Counterblast, discard 1. It's nice. Uh, and it also, when it's discarded, can call itself and get +5 until end of turn. So typically, you don't really have to commit to back row on your turn 3. Like you just wait, hope you hit one of these, which you probably will, and you're just like, oh cool, I'll put this behind a rear guard or I'll put this behind Vanguard, and just keep pushing out damage. Uh, this is a very older, but this is a very custom card for this deck too. And lastly is 2 copies of Shenri. So Shenri is if you played the order, you put soul draw a card. It's kind of the best we got. There's an argument to play like more copies of Shenri, but I feel like, you know, Latifa doesn't really bring too much to like the beating your opponent's face table, whereas playing the Burning Horns and the Bellicostes actually does bring something to the table. So I'd rather allot my resources to playing more of those than random grade ones. But it does draw you a card, which is kind of nice. But we got 1 copy of Dragveda. It's the best OT for this deck. Technically, you could play the blue OT, but 3 Vanguard attacks it'll make your opponent cry every time. uh, 4 copies of this crit, 4 copies of this crit. I don't know where my effect crit is, but you definitely want an effect crit, especially when the next set, Prison, comes out and is going to ruin everyone's day. 3 copies of the effect front. We don't really have that much of a soul issue, and we don't really have a reason to be running draws. Otherwise, we're going to just deck ourselves out. And 4 heal triggers. If you want the effect ones, you play the effect ones, you know? So that is it for this deck profile. One of the big hopes that I have coming up is we are starting the Skyride reveals. Well, we started them already. We started them on Thursday. So I'm hoping in this set, because this order card is supposed to be a Skyride card, I'm hoping that they do good for this deck and just give it like a random piece of support. Obviously, that's me just coping really hard and believing that they'll give it support, but what can I say? This is one of my favorite decks, so I'm always down for them to give it more cards. And with that, that's going to do it. I appreciate you guys listening. Catch y'all in the next one.